On this episode of Getting Warmer, can Bitcoin mining ever really become sustainable?
We're in Texas checking out this new wave of energy consumption through Bitcoin. And how much electricity are we talking about?
Enough electricity to basically light up hundreds of thousands of homes.
Could it practically be used for homes instead of for mining Bitcoin?
Well, that's the interesting thing about where we are right now in West Texas. It's not that simple.
Hey, I'm Kal Penn, and this is Getting Warmer. Cryptocurrency is one of those things that's easy to dismiss as a fad, like canned wine or things being cake. But whether you're a crypto skeptic or a laser-eyed diehard who tips their dry cleaner with Dogecoin, don't be that guy, you have to admit that cryptocurrency has become a fact of our economy. Even after its crash last year, its total market value is still almost $1 trillion. That's trillion with a T, and dollars with a D for anyone spelling at home. While crypto is having a real impact on the economy, I want to focus on the potential impact it's having on the climate.
We've been talking a lot about crypto's energy problem.
It is dirty, it is noisy, it uses a lot of energy.
So much energy that some companies are using power plants to fuel their operations.
Servers are the backbone of our digital world. As you can hear, they are loud, large, and power hungry.
Bitcoin uses an enormous and growing amount of energy. Its annual power consumption went from around 7 terawatt hours in 2017, similar to Albania, to over 100 terawatt hours by the end of 2022, nearly as much as the Netherlands, or 16 Albanias, give or take a Montenegro. In China, Bitcoin mining became such a drain on the electricity supply that they banned it completely. So what makes cryptocurrency such an energy hog? Well, it comes down to 3 words: proof of work. Traditional old school money is created by a central institution that validates it and distributes it. But cryptocurrency relies on a network of computers to do this, called miners. These miners create new money and then verify transactions with the proof of work system. It's essentially a lottery that miners enter by attempting to solve a very complicated calculation. The calculation itself is completely pointless, like high school geometry. But it proves that you've made a computational effort to mine that Bitcoin. That's the proof of the work of these transactions. And whichever miner wins the lottery wins Bitcoin. I mean, that's why they play. Unfortunately, no matter who wins, the climate loses, because those miners aren't actually cute little cartoon workers with hard hats, although that would be awesome. They're giant containers full of thousands and thousands of purpose-built computers using massive amounts of electricity. And as more computers enter these lotteries, the pointless calculations get more complex, which requires more computers and more electricity, which obviously makes more carbon pollution. Emissions from Bitcoin alone are estimated to be comparable to Austria, or 14 Albanias, my new favorite unit of measurement. So if crypto is here to stay, the question becomes, what do we do about its massive carbon footprint? Well, one option is to replace the proof of work system with a different system called proof of stake. Instead of miners doing calculations to enter the lottery, miners simply pay to enter. This uses way less energy. By some estimates, 99.9% less. Ether, the world's #2 cryptocurrency after Bitcoin, switched over to this method last year in a major upgrade known as the merge. Sorry, I tried to make that sound epic, but still pretty nerdy. Bitcoin has no plans to switch to proof of stake, but miners can still reduce their footprint if they switch to renewable energy. Electricity accounts for about 80% of a Bitcoin miner's operating cost, so they'll go wherever the deals are. Sometimes that means hooking up to coal-powered electricity in Kazakhstan. But as the cost of renewables comes down, Bitcoin miners are discovering a growing number of places with plentiful, cheap, renewable energy. One of those places, incredibly, is Texas. Yeah, America's gas station is in the middle of a renewable energy boom. And now, miners are flocking to Texas, not only for its cheap renewable energy, but for its business-friendly regulations. So I moseyed on down to meet some crypto cowboys to see if they can make Bitcoin mining sustainable, or whether they're all hat and no cattle, whatever that means. You might be wondering what a story about Bitcoin is doing in the middle of nowhere. And I mean nowhere. With towns like Wink, named after the fact that if you blink, you might miss it, this vast region of West Texas, widely known as the Permian Basin, is not exactly the Big Apple. But that doesn't mean it's not important. In fact, its primary export is the cornerstone to life as we know it. Energy. That's right. West Texas has energy for sale. Lots of it, and it is cheap. And where there's cheap energy these days, you're bound to find these things pop up like suckerfish. These are Bitcoin miners, specialized machines custom-built to solve complex problems to earn that magical internet money that we're all really tired of hearing about. I'm headed to a man camp. Oil workers and energy makers live in these unironically named man-campments for months, even years at a time. But fun names aside, and assuming the believers are right and crypto isn't the modern-day tulip bulb, Bitcoin miners will be increasingly calling these man camps home as they move into places like West Texas for their cheap energy. Wandering this man camp alone has me thinking. If Bitcoin mining is so energy intensive, how does a place like Texas, with such historic grid problems, let them in? Can Bitcoin mining ever really become sustainable, or is it all just one giant energy sucker? Should I quit my career as an actor to mine Bitcoins, or would I be better off waiting tables? I have too many questions. And who better to ask than Bloomberg senior reporter Mike Smith, whose work we plagiarized in order to make this cute video.
Okay, so we're in this man camp checking out this new wave of energy consumption through Bitcoin, and you've written about this for a while, right?
Yeah, I've been writing about this since late last year.
Would you say Texas is unregulated, underregulated?
I would say it's lightly regulated
Okay.
in most cases in terms of business, and very lightly regulated in terms of electricity. And that's because the electrical system in Texas was basically created a couple of decades ago to be almost entirely market-driven. The cost of electricity for big-time users of electricity is probably the lowest in the United States.
Okay.
And among the lowest in the world, actually. The state is doing everything they can to attract people here to mine Bitcoins.
And how much electricity are we talking about?
Enough electricity to basically light up hundreds of thousands of homes.
Could it practically be used for homes instead of for mining Bitcoin? Or is it like conversations around hunger? Well, we have all this food, we just don't have the mechanism to get it.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing about where we are right now in West Texas. What made me interested was learning how much electricity these Bitcoin mines actually use and how they're sort of flooding into the state of Texas, which has had serious issues with electricity. And then I sort of, the more I looked into it, the more I discovered it's not really black and white. It's not that simple.
Enter Justin Ballard, self-styled crypto cowboy and full-on Bitcoin fanboy.
I'm a believer that the Bitcoin network and what Bitcoin can do for people around the world, not just in the US, is very, very powerful.
Guys like Justin are looking to capitalize on the Lone Star State's business-first energy market to buy cheap energy for his fleet of thousands upon thousands of power-hungry machines.
I came from the oil and gas space, and I realized it's very similar to the oil and gas industry in that you want to be the lowest cost operator to produce a barrel in oil and gas. So Bitcoin mining obviously does require a lot of energy, and the goal of a miner is to find the cheapest energy possible. And typically that cheapest energy is found in remote areas.
So off we go to guzzle gas on the open road to better understand exactly what an energy hawk does to find cheap power.
So we're going to a solar site.
Yeah, this is a 180 megawatt solar farm that we're going to.
What's 180 watts in English?
180 megawatts?
Megawatts, sorry. What does that power?
Oh man, it can power a lot. I can't
One
even tell you.
megawatt is 200 homes.
Right,
Okay.
so 360,000, I guess, right? Something like that.
I'm horrible at math.
Wow. The old saying's true, everything really is bigger in Texas. But despite this vast expanse of panels, solar and other renewables remain an intermittent power source that doesn't even come close to satiating Bitcoin's appetite. To do that, Bitcoin miners need to buy power from sources with a surplus of energy. And believe it or not, there's quite a few options around here. So where are we going now? It's a substation. What does that mean?
This is a substation that we are going to be taking power from. There's a lot of excess power out here that just is available, but is not being utilized at this time. So
what were they, or I guess what are they currently doing with the excess?
Nothing.
So it just goes into the ground?
Right.
This type of power is known as stranded energy, and it's quite literally energy that has nowhere to go. And this is what occupies a lot of Justin's time, finding sources of stranded or excess energy and capturing it. He's doing a deal with this substation that has too much energy. They literally cannot give it away before they have to let it go.
This is the Owl Hill substation, and it's going to be a 40 megawatt site here.
So this is like the giant outlet in the wall that you're going to plug your Bitcoin, your computers into.
Yeah.
The sources of stranded energy are as diverse as energy itself, and a true energy hunter finds power from places you couldn't dream of. What are we actually going to see?
So we're going to go to a well site that has a flare stack on it. But these wells are not economic from selling natural gas type standpoint, but they can be economic for us to go mine Bitcoin on because the amount of gas the required to mine is so small.
So like when you see that, can you just imagine Bitcoins coming out of there?
I'm coming right out of the top.
Money, basically?
I'm catching them. I got a basket I run around with.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist, I'm just an actor, to understand that capping flared gas and turning it into energy is a lot greener than releasing it into the atmosphere. But there's a huge but here. Much of Bitcoin miners' current operations plug straight into grids that power homes and offices. A lot comes from non-renewable sources like natural gas and coal. Not only that, but Bitcoin's energy demands could potentially strain the grid's output, taking power away from residents who need it, especially in times of emergencies. In February of 2021, an ice storm brought the state to its knees, overwhelming the power grid, causing it to shut down.
No heat, no water after this first storm, and it's been deadly.
246 people died. Today, we're in the midst of an insane heat wave. In fact, the day we filmed this, almost every Bitcoin miner in the state had to shut down to accommodate peak demand for energy. Can a state with such serious energy concerns really afford to sell their power to Bitcoin miners? As it turns out, Bitcoin maximalists have an argument for why their intense power demands on the grid is actually a good thing for energy stability.
They're not putting the Texas grid at risk. They're actually stabilizing the Texas grid. There is a balance that is required for the grid to continue to operate. And it's a very small tolerance that you can get above or below. The benefit of Bitcoin mining for the grid is that you take your base load from this to this. When you keep your base load higher, when you do have a peak demand from residential use because of a storm or whatever, it's much easier to already just start curtailing your power away from the Bitcoin miners. They shut down, and it is diverted to the residential use.
Did you get all that? Yeah, neither did I. So I decided to zoom in for a second opinion with independent energy consultant Doug Lewin.
Is the grid and are the energy sources capable of supporting all of the growth in crypto?
So I think the answer is a firm maybe.
And what it depends on is good regulation. And of course, Texas is not necessarily a state that has a reputation for being good at regulating anything, unfortunately.
Well, women's bodies.
So you have to keep things at 60 hertz. If a plant drops, your frequency drops. You need something to balance that. You have to balance supply and demand at every second. I do think large flexible loads, whether that's Bitcoin or others, have a lot going for them if, and this is a huge if they are using clean sources of energy to power their operations, and if they will shut down when things are getting tight on the grid. I would like to see us be able to integrate Bitcoin miners, not because I care a lot about Bitcoin mining. I don't. What I care about is, in order to get Texas to a place where Texas is the leader in low polluting, low emission, clean energy, we are going to need a lot of large flexible loads. If they can do it, then we've got a template for these other large flexible loads to enter the market.
And that is how, in a perfect world of fulfilled ifs, Bitcoin mining's constant exponential demand for power can help stabilize the energy grid and drive innovation towards sustainability. Man, Bitcoin miners really are the suckerfish of the energy sector. But here's the thing. Despite their unfortunate name, suckerfish keep the big fish clean, all while getting what they need to survive. Sure, yeah, it's kind of parasitic, but at the same time, it's elegantly symbiotic. In a weird way, that's what Bitcoin miners are proposing to do to our power grids. Let's not forget that guys like Justin are still a minority in this space, and that even if he was to use only renewables, he wouldn't make much of a dent in the estimated 73 million tons of carbon dioxide per year that Bitcoin mining emits. Maybe we should coin a new phrase here, like sucker coins or fish bits, or not.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we could stop talking about Bitcoin?
Look, I know Bitcoin's pretty annoying, and you're probably hoping it just goes away. But so long as dudes like Justin think they can get rich from mining the stuff, it's probably here to stay. And if there really is a chance that mining this stuff can help stabilize our grids, then maybe we should give the suckerfish a chance. While there's plenty to dislike about Bitcoin's climate impact, it's important to distinguish between cryptocurrency and the technology that cryptocurrency relies on, called blockchain. Some argue it may be possible to use this technology to bring more transparency to our economy's complex and often dirty supply chains. UK-based climate activist and storyteller Jack Harries has more on this.
These days, a click of a button can transport a product from here to here. But what happens in between? Well, it's hard to say because we just don't see it. But there is a lot happening along the way. And much of it doesn't bode well for the climate. Companies claim they source responsibly, but that's really hard to verify. Could another kind of chain potentially help us make sure that the things we buy don't come at a massive cost to the planet? The blockchain claims it can. Hundreds of years ago, supply chains were very simple. You bought your fish from the local fisherman, your vegetables from the farmer, and your furniture from, yes, you guessed it, the carpenter. It wasn't hard to figure out where your products came from. Today, it's a totally different story. Supply chains are complex, global, and usually involve thousands of suppliers. Take, for example, your phone, this old thing. There are more than 200 suppliers from all over the world that are involved in putting this together. And you probably don't have the first clue about who those suppliers are or where the materials actually come from. Companies don't like to talk about this, and they prefer that we don't want to hear about it either. Transparency in supply chains wasn't a thing that we cared about. But now, especially as we face a global climate crisis, things are starting to change. People are demanding transparency. It's hard to know whether the things we buy were produced in ways that are damaging to the environment. For example, that eco toothbrush that you love and use every day at home. How do you know it's really eco? Well, what if you could take a sneak peek at that sexy corporate paperwork and get your hands on copies of every transaction ever made, tracking every product you ever buy? Exciting, right? Well, it should be, because it's one way that you can ensure your stuff comes exactly from where companies claim it does. Enter the blockchain. Now, don't panic. This thing makes my head spin as well, but it's really not as complicated as you think. We first heard the term blockchain when Cryptomania took over.
Cryptocurrency, it's the new wave. It's what everybody's doing.
Ethereum is going to $10,000 and Bitcoin is going to $100,000.
I think what's going on definitely will come to a bad ending.
There's a good chance that crypto is the future currency of Earth.
But while Bitcoin is the energy-consuming face of this model, blockchain is the logic of decentralization at the heart of it. And it has the potential to be used for so much more, because a key part of decentralization is transparency, something we desperately need as we navigate the climate crisis. By design, it can be used to track and trace. The idea of creating infinite, traceable, and trackable public digital records of something to make sure that no one can tamper with it. Information from those records is stored on blocks, which form a chain that everyone can see on the internet, hence the name blockchain. Simple, right? Every part of the product's journey can be captured and added to the chain, creating a clear, traceable path from its origin to your hands. Now, you might be thinking, aren't supply chains already traceable and trackable? And what does the blockchain really add here? Well, the thing is, blockchain was created to allow transactions between parties who don't know each other and don't trust each other. Because it's designed to be tamper-proof and decentralized, blockchain fans claim it eliminates the need for trust. You wouldn't need to trust anyone's claims of sustainability if you could simply check it for yourself. And that transparency and accountability is what could really help us in our fight against climate change. It's how we can be assured that our climate solutions are actually helping and not coming at the expense of other environmental costs that are invisible to us. Like electric cars, for example. Electric vehicles use lithium-ion batteries, which is a huge leap towards sustainable travel, but as many of us know, can also be very taxing on the environment. But there are different ways of mining lithium. One is much more energy intensive than the other. So how do you know which lithium is used in your electric car? This is where the blockchain can help. A British startup tackling transparency in the supply chain is using blockchain, my God, there are so many chains, to help record every step that the raw material takes, from mining to manufacturing. That means that you'll be able to see and verify where it was sourced. And that's not all. Carbon emissions at each stage of the production can also be uploaded onto the ledger. As consumers, one way to fight climate change is by being conscious about what we consume. But the decisions we make are only as good as the information that we have. If a company lies about where it sourced a product, there's often no way for us to know. Crypto fans claim the blockchain can help change that. Like many other climate tech solutions out there, it is of course early days. There's been a lot of theorizing, years of pilots and testing, and as of yet, not one golden project to set our compass by. But it could be a step towards a more transparent world that holds corporations accountable, because maybe the next time a brand starts to make big climate promises and asks you to buy green and sustainable products, you will get to say, well, prove it.
That's all for this episode of Getting Warmer. Clearly, if we want cryptocurrency to be part of a carbon-free future, we'll need to make big changes to how it operates, either by using renewable energy or making its verification system less energy intensive, or even better, both. Next episode, we'll take a closer look at the place where most of us will come face to face with climate change in the coming years: cities. Are they ready for the climate impacts we've already locked in? Can they adapt on the short timeline that's necessary? And also, most importantly, I was told every city was going to look like this in 2030. Is that still happening? Because it looks awesome. Although, I hope they still have bodegas. I'm Cal Penn. Thanks for watching.